Do you happen to know, I mean, what's the difference between GitHub and GitLab? Is there a difference?
There's no such difference. Those are just hosting services. You even have, Bitbucket, which is Altacian's GitHub kind of alternative.
I'm not sure what that bucket thing is. Is it the same thing?
Yes, those are all same things. Git is basically a version control. Now, the issue with version control is, it's on your local system. When you start scaling, if something happens to your laptop, let's say, like even having multiple copies of a code doesn't make any sense because your whole thing is gone. Correct. So if we have an online system where we can store it, it's just like you can just imagine as a Google Drive, but for code.
Okay, yep, that
I'm
makes
just
sense.
oversimplifying it.
Well,
It kind of looks like that.
yeah, I'm kind of an beginner, so yeah, that's very appreciated.
Yeah. So you also have like a different file system. You have Google Drive, and then you have OneDrive. So these are just, like Microsoft has OneDrive, and then Google has Google Drive, correct? So there's a basically online storage system. So like GitHub is Microsoft's online thing. Then you have Bitbucket, that is Altacian, and then there's GitLab, and there are many more.
Okay, I think I get now. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm sure Malaysia should talk more about this, but like they all work with Git, which is like a software that helps you manage your code and like locally. So like no matter what you use, GitLab, GitHub, whatever, it'll be pretty much the same. Like for your like you'll be using Git and you just connect to those services.
So Git Workshop. So first is Git and GitHub. So today we'll basically go for GitHub because it is kind of very easy to do it. So first off, like the plan for today is first we'll just have a basic introduction to Git. And then we'll learn some basic commands that you might be using. Then we'll work with, just a second, we'll have a live demonstration where we show how the commands work. And then we'll introduce GitHub. Towards the end, I'll help you set up your own websites using Git and GitHub. Okay, so first off, when you actually have your assignments or when you work in projects, there are many ways to manage your code. So the method that I used to use is something like, code.py, final code, code final, and things like on. But this can be difficult because now we do not have the ability to manage which code has which error. And then the different method would be, having different folders. Like, let's say version 1 is working. In this, we have version 1 with feature 1, with another folder with version 1 with feature 2. So these all can be complicated, but the best way to do this is to use a version control system. Now, Git is a version control system. This, as per definition, Git is a software for tracking changes on any set of files. This is usually used for coordinating work among programmers. So this is from the sources from Wikipedia. So just to summarize it, so Git is a version control system. The benefit of Git is it is decentralized, which I'll explain to you later on. Not need to worry. And then it keeps a constant track of code. So if anything goes wrong in your code, you can actually go back to the previous state where it was actually working very well. So the ways to install Git on your system, I have linked a few links. You can just go there and download those files. It's a fairly simple installation. You just have to pretty much press next majority of the times, and then it will be installed in your system. So these are some of the basic commands that you might use in Git. The first command would be git init. In git init, you actually say that this is the file, this is a system that we are going to keep a track on. The next method would be git add. Git add can be done in three methods, three ways, or various other ways. Like the first method is you can add each file separately, or you can add files with a certain extension, or else you can just add the whole files. The next one would be get status. This enables us to identify what changes are we tracking. The fifth one would be get commit. Get commit would actually help you, finalize the code, and then you can have a textual message which will help you identify what the changes you had done at that point. The next is get push, which helps you move the changes from your repository to the remote repository or to GitHub, which will be explained later. You don't need to worry about it. And then get pull is to get the repository from a local system. Get clone also does the same thing. So does anyone have any queries as such? Okay, I'll just see. Okay. Okay, so, and the other part would be branching. So branching is kind of a bit complicated, but these are the three commands that you'll actually use on branching. So get branch with your branch name. You can add any branch like feature 1, feature 2, things like that. Get checkout is used to change your branch. And then get merge is to merge multiple branches into one. You do not need to worry at this stage because I'll be showing it to you like how it works. Okay, so I'll first create a project. So this is just a basic project. On my desktop, I just created a Git Workshop folder. It's blank at the moment. So the first command as seen is get init. Now this actually initializes an empty repository. Now any changes I do in this file would actually be tracked. So I'll just create a random file. So I just created a random file over here, which is blank at the moment. Now, as I said as seen over here, I'll just see what all changes are there in my branch, in my code repository. Get status. Over here, it says the file is not yet tracked. The system will not keep a track of changes done in this file until and unless we add the file. So the process would be get add and then the file name, as in command 2. So it would be get add and the file name. The file name would be code.py. So now when I do get status, it says now Git will keep a track of this code, this file. So now any changes I do here will be kept, will have a version in it. For example, let's just make a simple for loop for I in 10. You do not have to worry about the coding part. This is just a random code. When I do changes on this thing, so you can see the status. Okay, we'll have to, this is not yet added to the repository though, because the change is not yet added. To add the change, we have to do the same task again. Get add code.py. Now, when we see the get status, it says now we are keeping the track of this new file. The next method would be to commit the message. Get commit -m and your text message, but the message that you want to keep it. For example, added for loop. So now it says one file was changed. There were 2 insertions. 2 insertions as in 2 lines were changed. So now when I say, when I show it as get status, it says there's nothing to be committed because the previous state has already been achieved. Are there any questions? feel free to ask questions, like, because there are anyway few members, so it will be kind of interactive. Okay, no worries. Like now, any questions? Yeah. So like, and then like the second one, like I went through all of them. Now, let us understand how can you remember this. The very easy method would be something like this. Okay. Yes, any questions? So the method would be simple. The Git flow is first you do some changes in your code. You make the changes in your code. The commands would be git status, or to initialize, you might have to even add git init. And then staging. Staging is a state where we add the files to the get state, this thing, get system. We say the get system that we want to keep a track of these codes. So for that, we use get add files or get add dot. And then we check get status to identify whether it's keeping track or not. And the last stage is commit. Commit is when you want to make it final. You normally use the command get commit or get push. Get push happen. You use get push when you want to change the local. You want to synchronize the local Git repository with your remote Git repository. Now you don't have to worry about this system. It's to explain it to you like more easier. You can just use this use case. Like just assume you're going to a supermarket. First, as soon as you enter the supermarket, you take you take a basket. That basket is basically get init. You initialize what you're going to do shopping for. And then when you buy something, when you put something from the shelf on your basket, it's get add. So you're adding stuff. And then git commit is when you are finalizing, you want to buy those things in your cart and go to the checkout counter. So you can just identify like this is similar to our everyday life, everyday tasks. So like, are there any questions in this? So like, as we see in this thing, now we'll actually help to see how the branching things work. Now, as you saw in this stage, we actually made some changes in the code, but this actually would be helpful when we are working locally. But when we are working on a bigger project, let's say that has 10 or 20 features, it's kind of difficult to help maintain version control throughout the whole project. Let's say I make a new file. So let's make a new file. This is the main code.py. So now this has feature 1. Okay, this has a feature 1 that is working. So now just rename it. Okay, this has a feature 1. Let's assume this is a feature that you implemented in your system. But now the issue is like this works, this actually works. Now the issue is when you would want to add more features to this, you do not want to break the previous features, right? So let us do that example now. So first would be as get add. Now we'll use get add dot so that all the files get into Git. Now get status. Now you see that even main code.txt is added, the new file, because we had previously added code code.txt. So now I'll just put a get commit -m, and then the message that you want to log the commit as in added feature 1. because this contains the code for feature 1. Okay. Now, the benefit of this is now we can create a branch. Branching is basically, I'll explain how branching is. There's this explanation of how branching looks like. Branching is something like this. So when you have a version, when you have a working version, you can make a branch which contains the same code in version 1. And then you can add new features in that branch. A normal example would be when you go to KFC. The interaction that you have is with the people at the counter. You do not actually interact with people working behind the scenes, right? So the person working behind the scenes, working on the counter, can be assumed as version 1. And let's say you order wings and a burger. So the person at the counter tells the person behind, working in the kitchen, that you need wings and a burger. So when you're in your tray, when there's 1 wings, there's feature 1. When there's wings plus burger, there's feature 2. And now when all your versions are complete and the order is complete, you can actually merge them or basically give back to the customer, right? Like, are there any questions on this? Okay, there's no questions. Okay, so this is how branching actually works. So I'll just show you how it would work in this case. So in this case, the feature 1 is actually working. Now I'll just create a new branch using the command git branch. So it would be git branch name. I'll just keep the name as feature 1. Feature 1. Now the problem is, when we create, this is just creating a branch. We haven't changed our branch. To change the branch, we'll have to use the command git checkout branch name. So it would be git checkout feature 1. Now we have switched the branch. Now it is important to understand that the very first branch that we were working on, or whenever you do git init, it actually is on the master branch. The name actually varies from system to system. Like GitHub uses the term main as the first branch, whereas traditionally Git uses master branch. So you don't need to worry because it will be in the documentations. So when you change the branch, and now let us add on the main code, I'll just add a new feature, feature 2. And now, since I'm in feature 1 branch, I'll just add checkout, sorry, add dot get status. And now you see that main is being tracked, so you do not need to worry. And now get commit. Feature 2 added. So it says like there were 2 insertions, 1 deletion for the line. So are there any questions in this thing? Okay, guys. Okay. Now the issue is, like, let's say version 2, something went wrong in version 2. And now because of this code, something is going way wrong. It's not working as it should be. So to go back into time, I'll just show you how you can do it. So for that, you have to actually get to know what all versions are there, what all commits are there in your system. For that, you have to type git log. This will actually give you all the features that the commits that you did. For example, this was the recent commit, right? Feature 2 added. But feature 2 was actually breaking everything. So we just have to commit the ID, copy the ID, commit ID, and then do git checkout, and then paste the ID. Now you just look at this, keep a track of the code. When I press enter, yeah. So sorry for that. Okay, git status. Okay. Okay, I did not check. I'm so sorry for that. Git. Okay. In Git checkout master, we actually went back into time where feature 2 was missing. So now you can actually change it from master to feature 1. So when I go to feature 1, you see that feature 2 was added. So this actually helps you backtrack changes. So for example, when you are working on a bigger project, let's say on a website, and then the main version doesn't have, sometimes on website you have some links that do not work. So this actually happens when there's no proper version control maintained. In this case, you can now see that there are 2 different branches working in simultaneously. And I do not have to actually, remove code over here. I just have to run a few commands, and then the code automatically goes into that previous working stage. Is that okay for you, or like any questions? Okay. So as I said, these were the commands. So now what is GitHub? So as you saw that all these things happen on my local system. They won't actually happening on a remote system. Everything that happens in this on Git happens on your local system. If anything goes wrong, let's say your hard disk crashes or your computer goes wrong somewhere, all your code is gone. In order to avoid this, we actually use GitHub or any remote repositories. It's basically like Google Drive, let's say, Google Drive or OneDrive, where we can actually have multiple versions of files. So GitHub is one of the most easier ones to use. GitHub is, as per definition, is a internet hosting for software development and version control using Git. So this is where distributed version control happens. So like you can actually interact with people with different locations. Like let's say I'm in Melbourne, one of my other teammates is in Sydney. It's difficult to use it's difficult to use Google Drive, right? I upload one file and the other person uploads another file. There's constant conflicts. So using Git and scaling it through multiple people is actually helping us to develop project. So what are the features of Git? First off is pull request. So you don't have to worry about what pull requests are. I'll just show you the whole thing. Pull requests are basically like when I make a code, I can actually send a pull request to the other person, explaining them what all changes I have done. And the other person can actually review your code or add comments. The code review is on pull request. The other person at times is more knowledgeable on coding practices. The other person can actually help you review the code, identify flaws or bugs. Then you have teams wherein you can actually form groups and contribute. Multiple people can contribute on the same project. And the best part is, as you saw, all the things that I did previously was on the terminal, which is kind of difficult to use and not that user friendly. So GitHub actually has a GUI application that helps us easily work with all the branches and commits, etc. I'll show it. You do not need to worry about any of this. You'll see the working. And then the most important thing is privacy. You do not want your code to be stolen by others. GitHub actually helps everyone keep their code private. And if you want, you can actually keep it open so that other people can contribute to your project. And then the best part is you can actually host your own very own static website for free. So let us see some of the features as explained on GitHub. So
What's a static website compared to a dynamic website?
okay, the static website is normally, when there's no access to databases, or let's say, or
Okay.
the best way to explain is in some websites, multiple things don't change, right? For example, let's say, which website? See, on a news website, articles change continuously, correct?
Right. That makes sense.
So sorry.
That makes sense.
But see, as for static website is, it's always defined. There won't be any changes on that.
Yeah, I see.
On a dynamic website is where, there's multiple layers, where it's like there's one process that actually extracts information from the database and then converts it into a textual format.
Mm-hmm.
So a static website is something like you won't be changing it every now and then. Something like, basic plain HTML, CSS.
Yeah.
Or some plain JavaScript, and not Node.js and all. It's just plain JavaScript and all. Those and all, you can state those as, for static websites.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Thanks.
So I'll just show it how GitHub is. Like when you actually have to first register your account on GitHub. So once you register on that, you'll probably have something similar to this. The first thing is creating repository. As you earlier saw, we did Git init, but then Git init was for our own local system. Over here, the folder where we keep a track of files is known as a repository. So we first create a new repository. Just create a new repository. You can, as the features are like, I'll just name it as for workshop. And then you can add additional descriptions like this is a sample for the workshop. And over here is the decision where you can actually keep it private or you can keep it public. For now, I'm keeping it public so that everyone can access it. So you can just skip these things as of now, because you don't really need, like, README files are more like descriptions of what the projects are. Git ignorant licenses, I guess it won't be necessary. We won't be digging that deep into the project, into Git and GitHub as of now. So I'll just create the repository. So once this is done, you'll get something like this. Like quick setup is, this is Git. This is your link for the GitHub repository. Now, as I had previously stated, in like on the command line, you would actually have to use this command git clone and then paste the URL in order to help bring this repository into your local system. But then that could kind of be a bit difficult. But for that, now we use Github GUI. You can actually download it. It's fairly easy to install once again. So the easiest part is, just have to press this. Just have to press add, clone the repository, and then paste the link that you received over here. Just copying it and pasting it. And I'll put it on GitHub and Workshop. Let's choose the file. Desktop, Git Workshop. And sorry, for workshop. So now this actually performs the same actions, as in get clone URL. Now, when I open the Visual Code, you'll see the for workshop folder. Just close all the other files. Now I'll just create a new file in this folder. Let's say hello.txt. Okay, so over here now we created a new file. Let's say hello world. Okay, we save this. Now, initially, as you had seen earlier, we would actually have to perform tasks like get init, get add file name, and get then status to identify which files are kept track of. But now GitHub Desktop actually does that for you. This actually helps you identify which changes have you done. This is a basic user interface, an easier user interface for anyone and everyone to use. So this is basically the commit thing. The message over here, I can just say, said hello. This actually, when you press commit, it actually performs the same task. Like get, the task performed on this is get add all the files, get commit -m, and this is the message. So when I commit this, now this has been committed on my local system. You won't see any difference on this, on the remote end. For that, you have to push it. So I'll just push this thing. It's a one-touch command, unlike earlier where you'll have to do commands like get push, get pull, and all. Now, when you just refresh it, you have the hello.txt. Now, probably even you using this URL can see the code. So this is how you can bring your local changes into a remote repository where other people can collaborate. People like you can actually, just download this code on your own laptops. Or you can use git clone method and just paste this URL to download the whole system onto your own local things. You can do the changes and then you can push it into this. And for code review, as in, see, when you're working in multiple teams, you probably have code like this. Like this is not a team project, but then when there's code like this, you'll have someone to review it. So this is the way how people can actually review things. Like, see, I told you can add this. Do you think that's necessary? This is the whole common thing that I was stating on GitHub. You can actually review code, but I think this is too complex. This wouldn't be much useful on a smaller scale, but then on a larger scale, it's kind of easier because at times you have people who are more experienced. They can actually guide you. For example, even in this case, like, is there any specific reason? The author actually specifies the reason. So this is how it helps even you learn. Even you can create your own projects over here and then help people collaborate with you. And then for the free static website, I'll show you how you can create a free static website. For the free static website, first off, you'll have to create a repository with your username .github.io. For example, I have created a new user account over here, and I'll create a new repository. My username is overclocked CPU over here. So I'll just create a new file, a repository with the name overclock-cpu.github.io. This is the essential part, your username.github.io. Once you do that thing, the very necessity is you have to keep your website public. So I'll just add a README file for now. I added a README file. This is just for sample. And then let us create some files. In this, when you want to host your static website, okay, the question is, what if you are merging a branch into the main that contains files with the same name? How do you resolve conflicts or changes? Or does it just override the files in the main? Okay, yeah, so it actually, when you have the same file names, they would normally just override with the main part, but then it would actually depend, like if you're using GitHub, it actually has a method as, it does not let you merge because they're the two complete files. they'll have to manually, a person would have to actually manually review it. But then on a normal thing, just if you're using on Git, it would normally branch it. Like it would normally overwrite it, the main files. Does this answer the question? Okay. So now I'll just delete this file. So the benefit is over here, you don't need to actually use the whole command line thing. You can just do it on the browser itself. So the first file, the structure is very important. The very first file you have to always keep is index.html. HTML. Over here is where your code would be. So for now, I'll just create a website as in, just create a basic website. So this is a basic website. Like I just created hello and hello world. This just says that. So I'll just add the commit message as in created index file and then commit this. So this actually helps you, you have multiple people collaborating with this, you wouldn't actually have to use the whole command line or, have to do it on your local and then push it. This is basically like a virtual space when you can do it online rather than having it on your own system. And now, in order to view this website, you'll just have to go to the repository name over here, for example. Oh yeah, overclock cpr.github.io. Now, this is your website now. So anything that you do changes over here, let's say I say, just do some edits. Gui. So now you actually, like you can actually have your own custom domain name. Then you can actually go to your name.com or .com.au, something like that. So now, see, I've done a few changes in this. Hello, how are you? Hello, world, how are you? This probably should do changes over here immediately. Okay, it did. Because at times your browser actually caches the website, so then you don't see changes immediately. But then it is actually immediate. So now basically you've got your own website for free. A little bit of HTML and CSS coding would actually, you can create a very good website. Like I'll just show you some of my friends. Like, so they have custom domains, so it actually redirects it into their website. So even you can do it at a later stage. To redirect it to your own website, that's fairly simple. You can just go to the documentations and then identify how to do it. So the very benefit of GitHub is you have a lot of documentation. There are many people doing some research. This actually helps you learn more new things. And you have bigger things over here. For example, if you're into computations, there are various projects like the software that you work on. For example, Visual Studio Code is open source. So I just search Visual Studio Code. You literally have the whole source code for Visual Studio over here. You can go through all their code and then identify how they work on it, how things are. So this is kind of a place where you can actually show your skills or your projects to people, and collaborate with people in order to further develop a better system. Like over here, though it's for Microsoft, you have a lot of people commenting on it. You have a lot of, so another benefit of GitHub is issues. Somebody somewhere finds a bug in your code. They can notify the developer. Okay, this is not working. For example, the gear icon and trust patch is delayed. Check into it. Things like that. This is a place where actually GitHub works. GitHub is basically like a shared Google Drive, let's say, to simplify it. But then when you want to keep some files private, you can anytime do that. Do you all have any questions on that? So the basic steps, it's on the presentation, so you don't have to actually worry about, like in the future, if you want to make your own website and all, you don't actually have to worry about it. So the steps are all in the presentation. Like you can add your custom CSS and JS. I wouldn't go into that detail into HTML and CSS because you probably have different workshops or you have skills on this. You can just create any of your own static websites. So